Keep on living. Ooh, and we'll keep on giving. You're a part of us, America. America's watching ABC.
More cool TV.
On ABC. And America is watching ABC.
This fall.
Come with me to a place
You'll be glad that you did.
Jeffrey.
There's so much more. Oh, what a store where Toys R Us kids. It's a magical land, so where else would you go? When everything's a Toys R Us and prices are low.
If it's new and hot,
It's a toy they've got.
and the prices are hard to beat.
You can search the whole world for Toys R Us kids know. It's the one and only place to go.
more games, more toys. Oh, fun!
It's the world's biggest Toys R Us.
To the thousands of special effects already found on Sega Genesis, we add one more. The Sonic Boom. Sonic the Hedgehog, now included when you buy a Genesis system.
Loop to loop without hurting my knees. And now it's time for chocolate. I love, really wanna have a Hershey's Breeze. Now I'm talking chocolate.
When the slime geyser erupts, it's time for news you can use from Nick. Monday morning. Yeah, date 9/9/1991. It's a day to fill your brain at school and get moronic after school. Moronic, that is, with more Looney Tunes than you can shake a stick at. Whatever that means. Actually, it means 5 hours of Bugs, Daffy, Porky, Yosemite Sam, and the rest of them after school today.
Is Snake Mountain ready to take on He-Man?
Snake Mountain, Battle Armor, He-Man, and Skeletor each sold separately. You put the mountain together. Batteries not included.
Is your serpent ready to strike? Yes. Come, He-Man. Come to Snake Mountain. If you dare.
Snake Mountain with Echo Microphone, new from the Masters of the Universe collection. Action figures each sold separately. From Mattel.
And you'll be with Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky, and Michael Jordan, the Pro Stars.
Bo knows cartoon.
Be with movie superstar Macaulay Culkin as Wish Kid, Yogi Bear and his all-new Yo Yogi cartoons, and the coolest cats in a litter box from beyond. Saturday mornings this fall, if you want to be with the best cartoons, just say, I want to be on
NBC.
It seems Wendell has eaten Cinnamon Toast Crunch supplies everywhere.
Except here, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Warehouse.
Irresistible!
Hurry!
I gotta have that blast of cinnamon and sugar.
You just can't resist Cinnamon Toast Crunch, can you?
The crunchy part of this complete breakfast.
See, Wendell? There's enough for everybody.
Even me.
Go.
I know a boy, his name is Zach. He loves to fit, he loves to stack. Yes, construction is his knack. He's Zach, the Lego maniac. He builds in the windows, off the wall. He builds them big, he builds them small. In Legoland, he'll rock and roll. He's Lego wild, out of control. Zach, he's a Lego maniac. Zach, Zach.
Legoland, King's Castle, Airport, Cosmic Fleet Voyager, sold separately from Legos.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo. New Super Mario World. Created especially for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a bit more exciting, a bit more challenging, a bit more graphic, a bit more colorful, a bit more realistic, a bit more levels, a bit more secret, a bit more enemies, a bit more friends, a bit more sound, a bit hotter, a bit cooler, a bit weird, a bit more revolutionary, a bit more Mario, a bit more of what you want. It's 16-bit, and it's yours only if you get new Super Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
I'm Hulk Hogan, star of Suburban Commando. This year, when Nick takes over your school, I'll be leading the pack. Stay tuned for more details only on Nickelodeon.
Half human, half animal. Thunder, 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 thunder.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome again to another We Grew Up Better live stream. And sorry for the late start, had technical difficulties, but time travel, whatnot. I mean, you fix it in post, even though it's a live stream. Join me as always.
1955. So.
Exactly. 1955, 1985. It's all good. They're both good. I mean, I would feel more at home in 1985 than 1955, but that's the whole premise of the fish out of water time travel experience that is Back to the Future. Tonight we're going to be talking about Back to the Future, not only the movie, but the entire franchise as a whole, video games, all the movies, basically everything that's kind of out there in pop culture significant wise with Back to the Future. But gentlemen, join me as always, Adam and Jordan from Complete Geek TV. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you?
Oh,
Except
I'm fantastic.
Sneeze really bad, so you might catch a couple of those that I got for you guys on deck.
So I've heard it is physically impossible to sneeze and keep your eyes open. Supposedly something about having
eyes popping out,
eyes popping out or whatever.
Right.
So if you feel the need to sneeze and you think you want to be part of medical history, please give it a go. I mean, just for posterity's sake, do it for the YouTubes and the views.
I might just do it like.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Let me get the chat up here. So, if you're in the chat, right off the gate, got to let us know which one of the movies is your favorite, 1, 2, or 3. Just throw up a number 1, 2, or 3. I don't know about you guys. My personal favorite is number 1. I like a lot of the gizmos and the gadgets of number 2, but as far as story wise and just like complete beginning, middle, and end, everything just fits so well together, the first movie, whereas the second and third just kind of felt like add-ons, which rightfully so they were, because they didn't intend to make this into a trilogy by any means. But what do you guys have a favorite?
I mean, they did a great job of making it a trilogy, if that wasn't the plan. Because I was actually just gonna say, like, it's one of the first like movie series I remember seeing when I was younger that like really had a continuing story, like a strong continuing story for multiple ones. Like a lot of movies, would like in the second movie would be set like a year or two later, where this was like, I mean, they all back up.
Yeah, immediately.
At least in Marty McFly's time, it's like a week of time for him. Like he's getting there, going back, coming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's the movie's only like a few days long for him.
Yeah, he had quite the week or weeks up. You start getting the time travel. How much time did he spend there versus in real? How many days does that equate to old Marty McFly's actual life? But either way, he had quite the experience. So let's go ahead and start things off with a couple of fun facts, as we always do. Some information to get the brain and the juices flowing. So fun fact, the film's never explained how Marty and Doc Brown met. We're just supposed to take it at face value that a 17-year-old kid is really great friends with this weird 60-year-old man that is a creepy eclectic collector and inventor, and they're best buds, but at no point in time is it ever fleshed out why they're best buds. Some might call that stranger danger. Family Guy has a whole recurring gag about Herbert the pervert, trying to befriend Chris. So it's a very similar situation where an old man's just hanging out with a young kid.
Like what, 7? He's like 8. He can hang out with whoever he wants, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's freedom. Sure he could. It's funny. So where's that? Oh yeah, like producer Bob Gale told Mental Floss that they had first met after the young teenage Marty, intrigued by stories he had heard about the mysterious and possibly dangerous inventor, broke into Doc's lab. Doc caught him in the act and was tickled when Marty professed his interest in Doc's work and gave him a part-time job helping with his experiments. So that was the backstory that we never got from the producers. Then it says, but Doc Brown came on the screen was different than what was on the original script. He was called Professor Brown in the first scripts, and instead of Einstein the dog, he had a chimpanzee companion named Shimp. Universal gave them some script notes and insisted on changing both from Professor to just Doc Brown, and then telling the producers that no film with a chimp had ever made any money. Which is funny because Universal literally made their entire catalog career off a movie called I don't know, King Kong.
I mean,
Gorillas is okay. Yeah, Chimps.
Yeah, Chimp is a little different.
Project X. No, that's not gonna cut it. Yeah.
Semantics. So the DeLorean wasn't in the original script. The famous, vehicle that we all know and love, iconic movie vehicle, if you will. In the original script, Doc used a refrigerator on the back of a pickup truck in his time machine, or as his time machine. But the idea of Doc moving around a bulky machine became an issue with Robert Zemeckis, and he came up with the idea of putting the time machine inside of a car. And they chose to use a DeLorean. It was a bit of a running gag amongst the producers, as the car designer, John DeLorean, I think that's his first name, John. I could be wrong. But yeah, the guy famous for getting arrested on drug charges. And he had to declare for bankruptcy and sold the DeLorean car interest out there. The car they used broke down frequently on the movie. Producers refused to change it, even last minute when Ford Motor Company offered to pay them $175,000 to use a Mustang as the time travel vehicle of choice. So it was almost a Mustang.
So wait, almost a Mustang by the first movie, or is this after it had already been established? Because I could understand
by the first movie. While they were still filming the first movie, they weren't done. They had all sorts of issues, and we'll talk about that later about how they had to kind of go back. But yeah, could have been a Mustang.
Could have been a fridge.
Also,
could have been a fridge.
Backtracking a little bit. So a movie with a chimp was never successful. I mean, I'm sure.
According to the Universal Studios head honchos that were giving them.
What about Planet of the Apes? I mean, that was
somebody didn't have a very long memory in terms of cinematic history.
They did their research on chimps.
I mean,
that's just...
Einstein the dog is a great character anyway. So.
Hey, how about we time travel in a fridge? I don't know. I just fact checked this, and it looks movies with fridges not a way to go. But DeLoreans.
They Mustangs or pickup trucks either, so that leaves us with this.
Man, can you imagine if that was a refrigerator? I'm sure it would still be a great movie, but it seems weird thinking about that, even a Mustang now. But yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things you go back, you can't change it because it's such an iconic visual now. So the setting for the third film was actually Michael J. Fox's idea. During the filming of the first movie, Robert Zemeckis asked Michael J. Fox what era he wanted to travel back in time to. He suggested the Wild West. And then while Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale were writing the sequel, they included a 19th century setting as the last act of the movie. And they quickly realized, we're trying to cram way too much into this second movie. We don't have time. So instead they just spun it off as its own third film. So they wrote a second, sequel. Then they started filming the two sequels back to back, which at the time was pretty unheard of territory. The filming stretched nearly a year with just 1 3-week break in between. And during filming of the third movie, Robert Zemeckis would often shoot during the day in Northern California and then spend his nights in the editing or dubbing rooms for the second movie, 300 miles away in Los Angeles. So he was definitely getting a lot of mileage on his feet and on his body trying to keep up doing both of those movies simultaneously.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
Yep. And then Back to the Future. You may recognize this cute, handsome lad right there. Back to the Future is Elijah Wood's first movie. So when Marty travels back to the year 2015, he stumbles into a vintage-themed diner, starts playing the Nintendo Play Choice arcade game, shows his prowess playing the gun game, and then the young boy is, in fact, an 8-year-old Elijah Wood, and it's his first ever credited role on screen.
It's sad to see that fly swatter just didn't make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was really hoping.
The fly swatter hat. Yeah, of all the things they tried to future.
Yeah, and Elijah was like, you think you're cool going back to the 1800s? I'm going back all the way to Middle Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Tilting T, welcome to the stream. Don't worry, you didn't miss much yet. So we're just getting started, and then. So you might remember, depending on your age, Michael J. Fox was starring in a brief sitcom, Family Ties. Well, he was actually shooting Family Ties simultaneously when he was shooting Back to the Future for 3.5 months, no doubt. And here's an excerpt from Michael J. Fox's autobiography describing his exact scenario in which he had to do Family Ties and Back to the Future. And when you think about doing this for 3.5 months, it's absolutely crazy. But he says, a Teamster driver would pick me up at 9:30 a.m., take me to Paramount, where I would spend the day rehearsing that week's show, culminating in a run-through at approximately 5 p.m. each afternoon. Then at 6, another Teamster driver would pick me up, shuttle me over to Universal Studios or whatever far-flung location they were based filming that evening, where I would work on Back to the Future until just before sunrise. At that point, I would climb into the back of a production van with a pillow and a blanket, and yet another driver would take me to my home, sometimes literally carrying me into my apartment and dropping me into my bed. I'd catch 2 or 3 hours of sleep before a Teamster driver number 1 would reappear at my apartment, let himself in with a key that I had provided, brew a pot of coffee, turn on the shower, and then rouse me to start the whole process all over again.
Yeah.
3.5 months of doing that.
Yeah, that's work. There's not a single job in this town unless you work 40 hours a week.
40 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, acting, we all like, yeah, that's such a glamorous job. All they have to do is, sit in a trailer, read some lines on a camera, get paid at Buku's buck. But I'd say he earned it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Earned his keep for sure on that one. And obviously, I mean, he makes the role.
Oh, yeah.
It is what it is.
I couldn't imagine that
Anybody else.
Can we just admire that at a time we thought it was cool to wear a suit jacket that made it you had dandruff all over your jacket?
Oh yeah, I forget the actual but that was a big 80s thing. Yeah, it was like everything was like wool and itchy and the materials. But yeah, I forget what it's called, the actual design. But yeah, it totally looks like
it just looks like you need to take one of those what is it called? The rollers?
Lint rollers,
lint rollers. Yeah, but nope, that's how it is, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but that child totally looks like a serial killer too.
He does. He really
does. We all remember George McFly, the pushover, Marty's father. In a deleted scene from the movie, we get to see that George gets bullied by a Girl Scout. The first part of the original, when the story takes place, it takes pains to show just how much of a loser George McFly is. He pours an overflowing bowl of peanut brittle and gets a disgusted look from Marty. Turns out the origin of that peanut brittle was from a deleted scene in which the father of a little girl and a softball team bullies George into buying the brittle as a fundraiser. An entire case costs $5 per box, all while Marty tells him to say no, thus symbolizing even more George McFly's weakness.
I don't think we needed that scene. I think it's pretty obvious.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of wondering
where that peanut brittle
why there was so much peanut brittle. I mean, it's a huge bowl that he pours.
Yep.
George McFly.
Oh, Tilting Pete. I still despise the man that thought up those itchy blankets on parents that our parents all brought. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a bad choice.
Yep. And then what else? Oh, yes. There's numerous Easter eggs throughout number 2, 3, and 1. A lot of 2 and 3 have numerous Easter eggs because they filmed everything back to back, but there's a lot of callbacks to the first movie specifically things like the Lone Pine Mall, Twin Pine Malls, things like that. But one of the most comical and, kind of foreshadowing one was the fact that in Back to the Future Part 2, Doc Brown's wearing a shirt covered with trains. And then you flash forward into Back to the Future Part 3. Well, he's using that shirt as his bandana to rob a train while they're turning a train into the time travel vehicle. So, it's a little bit of foreshadowing, but
that's nice. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there's a lot of little tips of the caps to everybody that's watching at home, rewatching these numerous times. Definitely pay attention to number 1 and number 2. Like I said, things like the Lone Pine Mall, the sign changes, and it all has to do with Marty's, running back to the future into the car and inadvertently running over the farm that had a single or twin pine tree set up. He ran over one of the trees and it became the Lone Pine Mall. Back to the Future Part 3, the person that Doc Brown buys his horse and buggy from ends up being the same last name of the person that sells the 4x4 vehicle to Marty. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy connections across all 3 movies that the writers and the producers went to crazy lengths to connect, and most just went over the viewing audience.
There definitely is a lot of connections. There was some stuff I was noticing because I was watching it yesterday, and all three of them yesterday and today while I was working. Just because it's been a year or so since I've watched it.
Oh, refresher.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily a connection between the two, but I had never noticed before. I think it's the second movie when Marty, as older Marty, goes to like do the video call, or no, it's Marty's son when he goes to, and he's like, I want channel this. And one of the channels, there's like an advertisement for some like headlight boob attachments. And it shows someone in like they start shining light out of her, chest. Like, I don't know. I'd never noticed that before. I was like, what is this? Like,
stuff like that.
I forget. It had a very weird product name too.
You almost wonder if somebody was just like trying to sneak that in to see if anybody was noticing in production or editing. They're like, let's see what I can get away with. Oh, good stuff. And then last but not least, gentlemen, are you familiar with these shoes? These famous shoes?
Those are so awesome.
Some great shoes.
Yeah. So Nike back in 2011 as well as 2016 made a limited edition run of these. Very small quantities were produced. The Nike Air Mags. You wanna hazard a guess what a pair of Air Mags go on today's market?
I'm gonna guess 1,500.
Okay, Jordan, any guess?
I'm gonna say
probably more than that now. Actually,
I'm gonna say 2,700.
The going rate is anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000.
Oh, okay.
I said mine plus Jordan's equals.
Multiply them, but the iconic shoe that Marty McFly dons in Back to the Future Part 2. With actual auto laces. You can get the knockoff versions for $100 off of the HalloweenCostumes.com. You have to add your own like swoosh and Nike logos and stuff. But
but you have those, right? They look pretty good.
I've made my own out of several different things, and it beats paying $5,000. Let's just put it that way.
So fun fact that I appreciate living here is that Back to took place in 1985 when the Royals won the World Series. They traveled to 2015 where the Royals once again won the World Series. It's the only two times. It's really weird. And when they go back to
those Simpsons,
I've never
one of those Simpsons thing where they predict it. And then they had like the Cubs winning this, the series prediction, which no one ever thought that was going to happen. That eventually did happen. Lo and behold. But
would have bet somebody on the Cubbies.
Yeah. So over the weekend, there was let's see if I can pull this up. I may have accidentally closed it out just now. I did. Fine. I'll pull it up again. Pause for dramatic effect.
His Air Mags actually look pretty good.
Yeah. So over the weekend, Back to the Future actually launched their own dedicated web store. So it is backtothefuture.store, not .com, .store. You can buy anything and everything Back to the Future, whether it's Legos, NECA action figures, books, art, games, movie props, memorabilia, you name it. Anything Back to the Future you want, anything Back to the Future you need, anything you don't want, anything you don't need, it is on there.
Yeah.
So I just give them a plug. Like I said, you spend $88 or more, you get free shipping. See what they did there?
88.
That's
88 miles an hour.
Touche.
See some serious shipping.
Do they have any wool jackets on there? Is the question.
I'm sure
Do they have anything for 2,100? Is that the
dollars?
Yeah.
Oh, what? 1.21.
Yeah, 1.21. That's what it was. Sorry.
I don't know. I just want to search this, low to high cost wise and see if what the most expensive thing on here. And see if I can do that. Can I do that? Available soon. Best selling high to low. Let's see what the most pricey thing is on here. So Hot Toys Back to the Future 2 DeLorean 1/6 scale, $824. Okay.
I'll be the judge.
Yeah. Okay, then. Gonna be a pass for me. Can't afford $1,000 DeLorean. Can't afford a DeLorean, period. But
or at least it doesn't get any more than that. So
yeah, doesn't get any worse. Doesn't get any better.
If that interests you, and you were like, "Well, I was wanting something," that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. All right. So Back to the Future 1, the first movie. Let's go ahead and pull up the preview trailer. I think that the teaser trailer is pretty interesting because this is before anybody got to experience get to understand Back to the Future. Teasers.
You gotta make sure you get those little pebbles and rocks underneath the shoe.
The Nike Cortez shoes.
Uh huh.
Look at all that wire. I'm sure Marty read the instructions, right?
Of course. Yeah. It all makes sense once you once you get through it.
Yeah.
How far are you going?
About 30 years.
I mean, boom, sold.
Yep.
If I'm, 1985 8-year-old kid, I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, at that time, you throw Steven Spielberg at the beginning of the movie, and you have that.
Sold.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yep.
So Back to the Future #1 was a commercial success. $388.8 million at the box office. Did all right. It currently sits with a 97% score on Rotten Tomatoes. So literally almost considered a perfect film.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'd hate to be that guy that's part of that 3%.
They just hate fun. They just hate everything.
88 miles per hour. They should have went to 100. I don't like it.
Yeah, that's how he talks.
So Matthew says, homage to Back to the Future 2, Grand Theft Auto 5 has a DeLorean in the game that transforms to a flying car. Well, hell yeah.
That's
I feel like I knew that, but it's been like so long since I played Grand Theft Auto 5 because it got released on every iteration of the PlayStation, it seems like PlayStation 3, 4, and 5. I just got so sick and tired of it. I'm like, give me a new game.
Yep.
Wonder if they had a bitter alcoholic Lorraine figure with a cake and a bottle of booze. Now that would be a Back to the Future store exclusive, I'm sure. Time circuits and flux capacitor fluxing. Yep. I still think it's great that the DeLorean known issues 9F reliability were included in the film. Yeah, I mean, anybody that's ever been around a DeLorean or seen one up close and personal, they look awesome on the outside and they look like a piece of crap on the inside. And for anybody that's ever driven one, they will back that up as well, that they drive like an absolute piece of crap. It's just one of those things like, you look at it, that's amazing, and then you're like, oh, this is like a shiny turd is what it is.
I know. How do they make such a cool looking car that just looks like it should be really fast?
Yeah.
It's like a really heavy, freaking slow car.
I mean, that's what happens when your founder's on cocaine all the time.
And it's expensive too. I mean, it was really expensive.
Paula Eckert says, I've driven one. I myself have also driven one. Ride's terrible, slow as can be. Just like I said, it's awesome to look at. Like, you go anywhere, you pull up in a DeLorean, people immediately want to take a picture of it. And like I said, 99.9% of that is relative to the success of this film and this franchise. But either way, I mean, they're just a cool car. Like the gull wing doors, that gets everybody.
Yep.
You know, none of us could afford a Lamborghini. Lamborghini was just like, really kind of taken off in the 80s as far as being that poster on everybody's bedroom wall. So you couldn't necessarily have the Lambo doors. You had the gull wing doors, which are almost as cool. Almost as cool.
Yeah, those doors are cool. And just the body, like the steel.
The stainless steel. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to worry about paint flaking off or anything like that. So, Paul says the one he drove, didn't buy it. Guy was asking too much. And even today, they ask quite a hefty price in today's market.
I'm sure the movie has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there that have been transformed to look like the movie vehicles, which there's people I know that make a decent living going around comic conventions and trade shows and things like that with their DeLorean out, Back to the Future vehicle. And they're just like, hey, $5, you want to take a picture inside the cockpit? And they do that on a weekend. They make a killing. So good for them. Good for them.
I guess that's one way to.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a couple years ago, that they decided to make like some new batches because
I mean, they're still being made to this day because there's other people that own the patent rights, so to speak, or like the licensing and just the production. But yeah, you can order a brand new DeLorean to this day. I forget what it is in current days dollars to order one, but it's one of those things like you kind of have to be a certain level of nutty and stupid rich to do that, because like I said, it's not a great car.
Just a
even a
perfect
brand new one
combination.
would still not be a great car. So it's like you got to be a massive fan.
You got to be Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Nutty and stupid rich.
You bounced your head off the toilet, and all of a sudden, November 5th, 1955, you invented time travel. So that's why we thought, today would be a good day to do the Back to the Future, because November 5th was quote unquote the anniversary of Doc Brown discovering / inventing time travel back in 1955. So yeah. Says Tilting T says one of the owners of the Game Preserve Arcade in Woodlands, Texas, has one and always brings it to the Back to the Future pinball machine to Texas Pinball Expo and sets them up together on display. Well, there you go.
Cool.
That's
really cool.
So
that's how you do it.
If he discovered time travel on November 5th, it was almost a full year that it took him to build the time machine then.
Yeah, which
right? That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, granted, he only has part-time assistant of a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And Marty McFly.
But it almost sounds like Marty doesn't know, because he just shows up that one day and is like, Marty, look at this. So he must have been doing that one.
He's secretive. Doc's very secretive. We get the hints of that throughout the film, that he's a bit of a quirky guy. One of my favorite Easter eggs in the movie is when Marty's coming back to show, I think it's the telegram to Doc Brown, and Doc Brown's talking to a cop in the background about his weather experiment that he's running on the clock tower. He's bribing the cop, but the camera's so focused on Marty and like the telegram, but he's clearly giving the cop money to leave him alone. And I'm like, little things like that. Like I said, just so many things you can rewatch and miss. And then I've seen this movie like 100 times and I still pick up. I'm like, oh wow, that's a little detail I've never noticed before. Good stuff. Good. You guys have a favorite moment or scene or bit from Back to the Future, the first movie?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know why, but one that my brother and I quote all the time is I think he took that guy's wallet scene for whatever reason. We do it all the time. But yeah, the whole movie's pretty quotable for the most part.
Yeah, it's almost a perfect film. Like I said, it's up there with like Shawshank Redemption as far as like things I look at it and go, I really can't like detract from the movie, like the story, the writing, the dialogue, everything's like I can't really nitpick at it. It's so damn good.
And just I mean not even just the first one, but the series is just so good. I actually
the part 2 that take your wallet.
Yeah, that's the second one.
Okay.
No, just like yesterday, like I said, I rewatched them again just while I was working, and like it was funny. My intention was kind of just to watch the first one. It was like, I'll watch the first one. I probably won't watch the second one, like just as like a refresher. And I got to the end of the first one and I was like, well, I gotta watch the second one, thinking that I'd watch the second one, but then I get to the end of the second one. I'm like, well, I
gotta go. You gotta keep going.
Like, it's just, they're just so good. And you just want to keep watching them. There's very few things I feel like that have handled a time travel story as well. The only other two things I can think of that I think still did a good job with like a time travel story would be the Netflix show Dark. If you haven't seen it, it's
amazing,
ridiculous.
So one thing I will credit Back to the Future doing so well with time travel is that they don't go too deep into the weeds.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it's time travel light, so to speak, because you can
like Dark does, but it does.
Dark does to an extent. But Back to the Future, it does time travel, explains it to a common person level, and then just kind of goes on. Like it doesn't go too deep in the woods. You don't start talking about paradoxes and things like that too much. It's just like, hey, here's the surface level. Here's time travel. Here's the basics of it. Follow along for hijinks.
And then I was going to say Steins Gate, which is kind of a visual novel video game. That's a really great game that deals with time travel too, that kind of covers all of its bases towards to find any loopholes or any like inconsistencies, which I think,
Terminator,
like you said, like
is a good call.
Terminator is actually a really good one too, I guess.
Yeah, depends on which ones.
Yeah.
The
One
original
and
two.
two.
So I totally agree with this, Paul, and this is something that's been out there. But Universal can never remake these films. Bob Gale basically put his flag in the ground and said, "Absolutely over my dead body." Literally, he's like, "No one will ever rehash or do any sequels while he is alive." He flat out said, "He's like, we will never do anything with this franchise without Michael J. Fox, and obviously we can't continue because of Michael J. Fox's illness." But I love that they're doing that. I know probably before I die, this will happen eventually. I mean, somebody will reboot it or do something.
It doesn't need to be, though.
It doesn't need to be, but Hollywood, you know how they
I know.
operate. I mean, it will eventually happen.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to. It shouldn't, but
Like,
they will
just-
not let sleeping dogs lie. I know that for sure.
Again, just rewatching them again yesterday, I was also just noticing how good they still look. I mean, I was watching the 4K like versions, but it's
That's
like
it's the joy of actually using film.
yeah, it looks great. Which you're gonna get nerdy here for a second, but they estimate you can pull out a 26K image off of an actual film stock, because there is an actual pixels on a 35 millimeter film, which is kind of crazy to think. Like stuff filmed with actual film cameras can still be used way into the future, because it's probably a long time before we ever get to 26K movies.
No,
and I see what you did there. Way into the future.
Yeah,
I got you. I'm just kidding. But
anyway,
the only time I
it's
feel
not
like
needed.
they should ever do any sort of, which I mean, even this is debatable, but a remake of stuff is if you're trying to do something to enhance like visually, if at the time they couldn't do something, but with movies that hold up so well, like I'll use Jaws for example. I understand that it was a fake shark, but have you seen how terrible any shark movie's ever been? Then with even today's, it's just don't try to remake Jaws. Yeah,
Megalodon.
Yeah, exactly. But same thing. It's just there's some of that stuff. It's like, please just don't touch that or mess it up.
I mean,
Pepsi perfect.
Honestly, the fact that CGI wasn't as good back then kind of forced them to film things in a different way that even today still looks more realistic sometimes.
I mean, there's limited special effects in Back to the Future. A lot of it's practical effects only, but even the limited special effects they did use, they hold up today. Like it doesn't look like when the DeLorean comes up for the first time, it's just flying around, you're like, okay, that clearly doesn't blend with the background of the foreground and everything, but you're like, it still looks fine. Like it doesn't need to be seamless for you to actually take that for what it's worth. Say, okay, the car's flying. I'm with that.
By the way, great call about the scene when he's with his mom and his pants are off, and she calls him Calvin. Calvin Klein the whole time. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, so in I want to say it's France, the French version of the film. He's not Calvin Klein; he's Pierre Cardin, which is the French, which is the French equivalent of a clothing, company over there that is super successful. So yeah, if you're in France and you watch Back to the Future, you always heard Marty's name as Pierre Cardin instead of Calvin Klein. Yeah,
that's great.
It is what it is, and Back to the Future was famously turned down by almost every single movie studio at some point because a lot of them couldn't get over the quote unquote incest angle of the script with Marty and his mother in the 1955. That was just like, as soon as they got to that, every studio just kept closing the script and saying, no, we don't want this. We don't.
I mean,
no.
It makes the movie so funny because
does.
It's not like it's like promoting incest. Like she doesn't know that's her son, and that's kind of what makes it so funny. Is he's like trying to keep the timeline going successfully, but he's like, oh crap, my mom's coming on to me, and she doesn't know. Like I don't know.
They somehow managed to keep making that more like even on the second one. Now he's like they're trying to hide behind the car when he's still in the car with his mom, and they keep.
So somebody had to sit there in the office while they were writing that and going, okay, where is this person physically, and then where is this person, in the timeline, and then somebody had to definitely make sure the dots weren't getting crossed and things like that. So Steve wants to know, when are they going to make some more NECA figures? Said there won't be any Crispin Glover / George figure. NECA's definitely got to do part 3. They've done figures for 1 and 2. They've done figures for the animated series. So, I mean, it only makes sense that we get some Wild West figures here pretty soon. I'm sorry, I'm looking around because I'm looking at my NECA Back to the Future action figures. And
I need that Mad Dog Tannen figure.
Absolutely. Like I said, the Back to the Future 3, the outfits, everything looks great. So got to bring this. Watchy Boy says Back to the Future 2 was the best movie in the trilogy. Changed my mind. So if anybody wants to fight Watchy Boy,
they're all good.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with them. They're all entertaining. Sadly, yeah, Crispin Glover was not part of the second and third movies due to a salary dispute. He ended up suing the producers, and the producers ended up having to settle out of court for $500,000. They thought that was cheaper than anything that they would have had to do with the press and the public of going through the whole public lawsuit type of thing. So yeah. He made $500,000 to not appear in the second and third movies.
He wasn't in the second. Oh yeah, he's not in the second at all. For some reason, I felt like I remember there being like a scene.
There is a scene.
I was gonna say because
and he has a body double that looks like him.
Well, show clips from the first scene because they show Biff getting punched and all that. So, but I guess that was just already filmed. So.
And speaking of, we got to talk about this. Biff's character, he does such an amazing job. He's one of my favorite parts.
Three different.
He's one of my favorite parts of all the movies. Just every character he does every part.
And you successfully hate him too.
Yes, but he's also hilarious.
No, that's a great. That's his character. You shouldn't
incredible.
Like him. I think he does it.
I loved him as Mad Dog Tannen. I don't know why, but that was. All the stuff he does that's pretty great too. I'm trying to remember the whole exchange he has, but when he's just like, when he doesn't understand what Marty said, it's too good.
So Back to the Future Part 2 grossed $332.9 million, so about 50 less than the first one.
Interesting.
It's sitting at a 63% Rotten Tomatoes score, so nowhere near the 97.
That's pretty harsh, I feel like. For
I know. It's still a great movie.
I love it.
Yeah.
I would not give it the low D, almost like a failing grade. Like, I don't know what people are upset about with this movie. Like, it just, I'm sorry. I love it. Like, it does not deserve a D.
Hey, let's talk about, maybe there are many things from this movie you want kid in the future.
Exactly.
You know how bad you want a freaking hoverboard?
Oh, yeah.
Or a jacket that dries itself off.
I mean, yeah. I mean, hoverboards in this movie kind of ruined the idea of hoverboards forever because when
for sure
a few years ago when they started coming out with what they were calling hoverboards, I'm like,
they're basically segways without the handlebars.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not a hoverboard. This is a hoverboard.
Yeah, exactly. Like those have wheels. What are you talking about? Have you not seen Back to the Future? They figured this out.
It's not hovering.
Ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Although there were so many things that they were very wrong about the future having.
Yeah. So one common thing right here. So Biff Tannen's Pleasure Paradise there. So Biff Tannen in the future and the whole this character, it's literally written to be a, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's basically supposed to be Donald Trump. 100%. The producers have said, we thought, what would the world look like if Donald Trump was in charge? And lo and behold, as Simpson-esque, they kind of predicted the future. Trump becomes president. But Biff's Pleasure Palace, that's what they thought Donald Trump's world would look like.
They got the hair close.
They did
get the hair close.
They
got the hair close. The chested woman as his wife, even though it's Lorraine, which again, another character that gets to play multiple roles. Leah Thompson with her, 3 different, 4 different, 5 different variations of Marty's mom, aunt, cousin, long distance relative,
great grandma.
all the things. Yeah, the clock tower. So, Elijah Wood playing Hogan's Alley in the future. So Paul says, sad is that 4K release had not too long ago is probably going to be the last time we see physical media release of these films. Kind of makes me sad. Less and less physical media is getting produced, which makes me sad because I collect all of it. But then again, we also don't have 8K. It's not going to happen. 26K is not going to happen. We're into that issue where like you physically can't produce media that can hold the storage space. And then it's like, well, people stream so much anyway. Does it even make sense to invest in that type of technology? And most companies are saying no. So
eventually,
all those
things get
8K
cheaper, they can just start adding them to like hard drives, and that'll be your physical media, right? You just play.
Close enough. I mean,
Hey, I'd still buy that over having only a download option or a stream
same
option.
here. I need something. Like I don't want to just give me something to look at.
Go back to cartridges for games and movies.
Fun fact: Christian Glover was with YouTube problematic girl Trisha Paytas. I don't know who that is, so I don't know. You know more than I, because I don't know who Trisha Paytas is.
I don't either.
Yep. Anyways, moving on. Back to the Future Part 3.
From out of the West.
From out of the West. So Back to the Future Part 3 made $245.1 million, the lowest grossing movie of the trilogy, but it has an 80% score on Rotten Tomatoes. So
really,
the second most well-received movie, but the worst financially.
I could see where like seeing the trailer for this in like theaters or something, being a little less interested, because it just looks so different from the others. Like it's all
Absolutely.
a lot less where you're like, wait, this is the next Back to the Future? Yeah. I mean, it's still a great movie. It just I remember when I was younger thinking it was a little weird the first time I watched this one,
like that dude. What's your name, dude? From it, just say them in the.
Did they say dude back in the 1800s?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, was that actually a thing? Dude,
Mad Dog did.
Yeah.
This is such a good character.
Yep. So there's actually a deleted scene where Mad Dog Tannen kills the sheriff. It really serves no purpose of the movie other than the fact that you kind of wonder why the sheriff didn't arrest him at the very end of the movie, and it was the deputy. But
so I guess it was
I guess it was supposed to establish Mad Dog Tannen was a really mean guy, but we kind of already got that.
This summer, Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis invite you. Come on, Marty! To the Rough Riders.
Paul says, my uncle helped build the sets in Part 3 up in Sonora. That's awesome.
Okay, that is awesome.
Speaking of Mary Steenburgen, is that how you say it?
Steinberger, yeah.
Steinberger.
Back to the Future.
I can't decide if she's always looked like 60 years old or if she just still looks younger. Because like when I see her in this and when I see her in like Step Brothers or something, like she looks the same, but she slightly looks like she's that same age even back then in this movie. But she also still looks like she's kind of young in Step Brothers.
She's got one of those faces.
Yeah.
Like, So, I mean, that's also a recurring thing that we kind of mentioned is a lot of these characters throughout the movie have been a casting carousel of, recast. Like George McFly got replaced, Marty's girlfriend got replaced, and of course Marty got replaced. One of the most famous, recasts in all of film history was Eric Stoltz was originally Marty McFly. They filmed with him for 6 weeks. And
really?
they filmed a lot of content, and they ended up saying, you know what, you're not the guy for us. Like Eric Stoltz apparently was playing as a much more broody and serious role, and Michael J. Fox was much more lighthearted and charismatic. Universal ended up spending $4 million to start all over again and start from scratch because they couldn't use any of this content because he's the main character. You can't reuse these scenes. You got to reshoot everything. So Eric Stoltz, he went on to have his own career, not nearly as successful as Michael J. Fox, but Michael J. Fox, even by this point, had already kind of surpassed him. But Leah Thompson, she was cast and recast several times before she finally landed the role. Like I said, Marty's girlfriend, original girlfriend, quit acting, so she got replaced by.
Interesting.
I've always wondered why it wasn't the same person. I know Elizabeth Shue was like very big,
the villain,
but But yeah, I never understood why it wasn't the same person between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mr. Syntastic's Nerdy Collecting says, I would love to see the Eric Stoltz version. They filmed about 40% of the movie. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of it out there, and it's, sitting in an archive somewhere in Universal Studios. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes clips and things that are out there. But as far as like somebody being able to piece minutes together, none of us will ever see it. Claudia Wells, there we go. That's who I was trying to think of. This is an urban legend, so I can tell you this right now. Eric Stoltz's hand is in one scene. There's many fans have been saying this for years. Bob Gale, Robert Zemeckis, Universal Studios. I mean, you can start splitting hairs and fight over who's right and who's wrong, but they swear up and down that nothing of Eric Stoltz is in the final print of Back to the Future. Fans say you can see his hand in one scene and maybe a side of his head in another. If it happened like that, it's mere accident, because clearly they went to great lengths to start all over, and it would just be crazy that somebody would even have the dailies of that bit of footage mixed in with the other stuff of Michael J. Fox at all when they're editing. So like it'd be crazy. So Paul, what's up? How are you doing?
It was gonna be $4,000,001.
Yeah,
but they wanted to
gotta save it. Save it.
Save it a little bit.
Aeon says nobody played Rocky Dennis and his cello-shaped head better than Eric Stoltz. Referring to the movie Mask, which it's a good movie, but that's what he went on to do after getting canned from this Back to the Future ordeal. And of course, Back to the Future went on to be an animated show. I remember watching this as a kid, enjoyed it thoroughly. You got the iconic music and everything. So the cartoon series lasted 2 seasons, each 13 episodes long, ran on CBS from September 14th, 1991 to December 26th, 1992. Reruns lasted until August 14th, 1993. The network chose not to renew the show for the 3rd season, citing its low ratings. Fun fact, Doc Brown was voiced by voice actor Dan Castanella, who is most famous for being the voice of Homer Simpson and other Simpsons characters. So, always a Fox friend.
There he is.
Yep. But this acts as a continuation / sequel to the Part 3 film of the franchise. You get Doc Brown, his new wife, and their kids, who can be seen pointing to their crotch at the end of Part 3. It's
wait, what?
Yeah. So I tried to find a clip of it, and so it's a weird bit of movie history. But in Part 3, they got the family sitting in front of the train. They're telling Marty their goodbyes, and one of the kids, like, the camera is facing like on the ground. It's facing up at the family. And one of the kids goes like this, like he's pointing up at the camera, and then he puts his finger like this on his penis and taps it, and then smiles. And it's in the final cut of the movie. I kid you not. So go back there anytime.
I almost feel like I need to find
it.
this right now. I've got it pulled up on my iPad.
Pull it up, because
I'm gonna grab it. It's literally sitting right there.
Yeah, it's in the final print of the movie. It's not a bonus feature. It's not a deleted scene. It's one of those how did they miss it type of thing.
This just slipped the cracks, or they're like
slip through the cracks.
That's good. Well, it's just a kid being a kid.
Aeon says, how funny is it that Christopher Lloyd was in the intro but didn't do the voice in the actual show?
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Is it somewhere around here? Thing?
Yep.
Like we're way over.
Yeah, I think you missed it, because they're already taking off.
Yeah, that's anyways.
Yeah. So, Paul, to answer your question, I think resounding, everybody in the chat for the most part was saying 1. We did have a couple.
Yeah. Saying it's before this?
What, a couple dudes?
Yeah, it's before. Because they've taken off. So, Mr. Syntastic says, the little blonde kid is clearly pointing to his crotch. The rumor is he's still trying to tell somebody that he has to pee. I don't even care what the backstory is. I just love the fact that it's in the final print of the movie, because I'm like, why did nobody catch this?
I hope I can't believe I haven't noticed this.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh yeah,
Trying to figure out where
I
it
could
is.
probably YouTube it and find
Sorry,
it.
I
But
can't
either
hear
way,
Doug
like,
now. Sorry.
yeah.
So where is it in the?
It's when they're sitting.
The whole family
Yeah.
is like in front of the train, so you're close. Like Doc Brown, Clara, the kids. Paul says, "How about the movie almost predicting the Cubs winning the World Series almost to the year?" Yeah, it'd be amazing if they pulled that off. And Mike wants to know, how did I never notice this? It's one of those things, like, you know, it slips through the crack. Clearly, you know, editors, producers, the million people that screened this movie before it finally got, you know, a stamp of approval.
That makes sense, I guess. We all pointed our.
I guess it's like right here.
Yeah, it should be. Yep. Oh, here it comes.
Wait for the penis shot. Well, that sounded weird. The
yeah. All right. So it should be coming. Wait for it. It's when Doc introduces the kid to Marty. Yeah, here we go. Coming up.
Good thing you're getting a little shoulder work out there.
Yeah,
you know?
this is.
Yeah.
You're feeling a little burn in that right shoulder.
Yeah, it is a little bit holding it straight out. iPad's not that heavy, but holding it for this long. Yeah.
Here we go.
The echo.
Well,
there it is. Oh, wait, here it goes. Right there.
There it is.
It's a bonus feature with the kids at the.
So he gave
He's like, come, look up, tap. It just. Oh, like I said, one of those things that slipped through the cracks. Kongs wants to know, question, has there ever been a decent toy version of the train time machine from Back to the Future 3? Not that I'm aware of. I've never seen one. We did get some toys that coincided with this cartoon B, but they're not of the same quality that you would hope and expect. So McDonald's had their Happy Meals toys to coincide with the release of the Back to the Future cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
I had every single one of these.
Same.
Yep.
Still do.
But that was the only train toy that we ever got.
One toy each week when you buy your kids $1.99 McDonald's Happy Meal. Perhaps I should forgo further documentation.
If they made a legit train toy for that, that'd be a great one to put around your Christmas tree.
Oh, absolutely. That would be sweet. I'd be for it. So, Jordan, you have a musical background. Are you familiar with Back to the Future, the musical?
No.
Did you know it was a thing?
I did not know it was a thing.
Well, let me show you. So the musical was announced in October 21st, 2022. It'll be going for a new run this year for the 2023. It'll be opening June 30th, 2023 on Broadway, but it's been running for 2 years now, and it's been quite successful.
Yeah, I almost just a second thought it was Will Ferrell.
As Doc Brown.
That would have been incredible. Like Harry Carey.
He definitely
looked
like it. Yeah. But yeah, if you're around Broadway and you're looking to take in a show, I suggest Back to the Future, the musical.
Yeah. That could be.
Dude, that'd be hard to replace Biff.
I mean, it's troublesome because you gotta have somebody that can sing, dance, do the whole 9 yards. Which, yeah. But as you can tell, they cover the basis. Production quality, everything is top notch because this, like I said, this is an on-Broadway production. This is not some run-of-the-mill, high school musical type of thing.
So that scene right there just actually reminded me of something. I've always appreciated, again, like you said, as someone who I do music for a living, I've always appreciated that Back to the Future, especially the first one, that scene with him playing guitar, is pretty accurate as far as the filming and what the musicians' hands are doing. Like, a lot of movies don't even care, and it's obvious they're not playing, but whether Michael J. Fox actually plays guitar that or not, and clearly the rest of the band like the snare drums hitting when a snare drum
Yeah.
hits as well, and the toms and the cymbals, like everything actually matches perfectly to the actual notes being played.
You want to know why?
In the song, because they probably actually knew how to play it and played it for real.
Yes, Michael J. Fox took extensive guitar lessons to make sure that he could at least fake it enough. He could play guitar decently, but he took a lot of guitar lessons so he could play his way through it. In 2016, he actually came on stage with Coldplay, and they actually performed Johnny Be Good, and Michael J. Fox played the guitar part
Okay.
that he played from the movie. So he's had practice, lots of practice over the years. But 2016, even with, you know, all the medical things that he's got going for him, full stage Parkinson's, to be able to play the guitar.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I've seen so many that just didn't care. It was like, yeah, I just have them look like they're doing something. And like, not anywhere close to matches that I'm just kind of like, yeah, this kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
But
To answer your question, Mike, that is, it's relatively new. Like I said, it's been going for at least 2 years now, and the current iteration will be reopening on Broadway in June 2023. So still new. But yeah, Huey Lewis coming out there with his cameo. Sorry, I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Huey Lewis apparently turned that down several times, and it wasn't until the producers told him, hey, we're not going to credit you. We're not going to make you look like Huey Lewis. We'll put you in costume and make you look extra nerdy. And we won't involve you in any of the advertising, you know, of the movie or anything like that. So he said, okay, fine, I'll do it. So apparently he just didn't want to detract from the movie. He was more than happy to, you know, be a part of the soundtrack, which sold exceptionally well. And, you know, his Power of Love is an iconic song that goes hand in hand with the franchise. And gentlemen, either one of you ever get to experience the glory that is Back to the Future, the ride, when it was up and running?
I did, man. I
got to ride it with my dad.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Yeah, I got to ride it with my dad when it first came out, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, the ride was based and inspired on the franchise and is actually a mini sequel to Back to the Future Part 3. The ride first opened May 2nd, 1991 at Universal Studios Florida. Subsequently, it opened at Universal Studios Hollywood, June 12th, 1993, and then Universal Studios Japan in 2001. In 2007, though, it got replaced by the Simpsons ride. So,
which is also a great ride, but
it is a great ride, but I still wish we had Back to the Future.
I still wish Jaws was there as well.
Same here. Jaws, King Kong, all of it. I mean,
but
it is what it is. Like, like
Harry
E.T.
Potter
ride,
World,
Terminator 2 ride, they're still there, but Back to the Future, King Kong, Jaws all got replaced. The Mummy ride's still there.
Yeah, Mummy's good. This was my first. What am I trying to say? Screen, right?
Oh,
what do you call it?
Like simulation.
Experience,
simulation ride. Yeah.
Because you got like you get to watch a show, you get jostled around, you get like it was.
You want to vomit,
What they call it, 4D. 4D is what they call it now.
Yeah.
You go to the movies and they have like the moving seats and.
Yeah, sometimes I take it too far. Like, I don't need to smell, like, if someone farts in the movie, I don't need to smell a smell that comes out.
So you're talking about the Shrek?
With it. Yeah, that's just unnecessary. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I resonate so much with this. So Steve says, some kids started skateboarding because of Tony Hawk. I started skateboarding because of Marty McFly.
Yeah.
I myself did the same thing. I started skateboarding when I was 8 because of Back to the Future. And then we moved to Missouri, and my parents moved me to a place that had nothing but gravel. So I couldn't physically skate. So I stopped skating until I was like 13. I restarted skating and then skated long until my 20s and gave up after breaking my ankles and doing jujitsu a bajillion times. But yeah, skateboarding, I can 100% attest and connect my skateboarding roots to Back to the Future, the film franchise, period.
Man, I'm with Tilted T Pinball on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I want a new, the only new Back to the Future was a new Back to the Future Pinball.
Yes, as do I. That's my number one wish list, is a Back to the Future pinball machine from Stern with all the assets, actual movie clips, none of these like fake assets. I'd love for Keith Eldwin to be the guy that designed it, but I'll settle for just about anybody. Data East made a Back to the Future pinball machine, and it's not great. It looks cool. It's just not a fun game to play. It's got a funny little flyer for it. And fun fact for that, Doc Brown and Marty in the flyer advertising it is Gary Stern is Doc Brown, and Joe Kamikow is playing Marty McFly. Michael J. Fox is the only person that didn't license his likeness to be used on the table. So everybody from the movie has their face somewhere on the table as on the back glass. Marty looks obviously not like Michael J. Fox because they didn't have his likeness right. So they put his big glasses to cover up a lot of his face. But it's very
interesting
that he was not a part of that, unfortunately.
That is very unfortunate. As that's your star.
It is what it is. Like I said, it's a cool collectible. I love me some pinball, but if you've ever played that table, it's just not fun. It's just not fun. Plain and simple.
That's a huge part of the pinball experience.
Yeah, I want to have fun when playing a pinball machine.
Yeah. Now the FX3 tables are, or the FX3 table, since it's like 3-in-1, it's fun. The virtual / digital pinball variation that Zen Studios made years ago. That one's a fun one. But yeah, Tilting T says, it has to be Keith Elwin, full video assets, and Doc on all the call-outs. That would be fan-freaking-tastic, yeah. Which Comic-Con was it that it was recently had Doc and Marty Back to the Future? So New York Comic-Con back a couple weeks ago, so in October, Marty and Doc got back together. That was Michael J. Fox's first appearance since his, he's had horrible like year and a half. He fell, broke his hip, fell and broke his arm. That was his first time being able to walk unassisted, and he was adamant that he wanted to walk on stage unassisted without a cane or somebody helping him. So yeah, Michael J. Fox has had a run of bad luck. He said in a recent interview he feels good, all things considered, obviously with his Parkinson's disease, but he said he just absolutely loves to see Christopher Lloyd. He says he's like a father figure / big brother to him, and said they've always had an amazing connection even while filming this movie, but over the years, of course, being associated with the franchise. So it is what it is. But Jordan, we briefly mentioned this before we started, but what do you think about them video games for Back to the Future?
The earlier ones were not so great.
Yeah, so this is the first one. We got 1989 Commodore 64. So like, all right, you watched Back to the Future, you want to play a video game, you got to wait a little while. But this is what you got. This was Back to the Future, the video game.
I feel like this one there was no clear direction of what to do. It was just
that's a running theme with the Back to the Future video games. But yeah, this one too, like it's just you got people walking around shoegazing. That like I obviously limited technology at the time, but yeah, you don't know what you're supposed to do. You just like, okay, Enchantment Under the Sea dance, all right.
And like, why is
the Commodore?
Like, why is the picture of Marty like slowly just? Oh, is that well? Okay, no, never mind. That's making sense now.
You understand that? Yeah.
Now that I'm saying it out loud, okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
Paul says it has an ET
but then
feel to
it
it.
reappears. So you're trying to fix the timeline before he disappears.
Listen to the music though; it's got it down.
They did a good job digitizing, the little MIDI sounds on that, 6-bit chip tune. So after the Commodore 64, we had to go to the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yeah.
One of the best developers of all time.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, you immediately think this is a Back to the Future game, right?
Yeah, that's the problem here.
Well, you're picking up clocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're picking up clocks. It's like, hey, let's take everything people love about Paperboy and bastardize it, and
throw the Back to
I
the
will
Future
say this:
name
I like this better than the 2 and 3 personally.
Do you now?
I do.
Okay, then I'll let you just say that.
Just because I'm not talking about 2 and 3 as in I'm talking about the one that's the 2-pack one on NES. Just because I have like no clue what to do in that game. There's like no reference of here's pretty
go.
Yeah,
and go.
He was saying he likes this game better than the movies 2 and 3.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Yeah, you're the worst.
Yeah.
So Mr. Syntastic says, I was at New York Comic-Con this year, only on Thursday, so I missed Michael J. Fox. He says, I met Christopher Lloyd last year at Monster Mania in New Jersey. Got him to sign my Doc Brown NECA figure. Was very experienced. I'm going to assume, was it very
great
experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah, great experience or very expensive? Probably both.
But sweet.
Either way. Yeah, either way. I'm very, very jealous.
You remember when Marty had to dodge that bee?
Yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
iconic part of the movie.
It is.
Yeah,
Bee
I
dodging.
mean, nobody can forget the bee and the yellow jacket, or
And all the clocks they had to pick up.
yeah, all the clocks he had to pick up, and him tripping over the sidewalk, and yeah. So okay, wasn't the best game. So surely when they came out with the sequel, the continuation, it got better, right? Right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, this is LJN still. Yeah.
This is rough.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, the graphics.
I know. Yeah.
Graphics have improved. We got a little backstory. But,
Like the jumps are just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Man,
it. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. It's like, yeah, what the?
Yeah.
So bad. It's
Yes,
just because
gotta
the
say
game
it.
is, it's just played so poorly. Just made you mad.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, it's one of those like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We all should have known better as kids.
And once
Like
again,
after the first one.
The bluebirds and the fish that jump out and attack him.
I know,
Yeah, whatever that guy is.
Yeah, why is Marty in a swamp?
He's like the little helmet guys from Mega Man 2. The little construction. Yeah, and a snail.
Yeah. Well, you remember in the movie when he had to dodge the snails?
I did not realize there was a snail in this.
Throwing bowling balls at dancing women in the streets. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of the Back to the Future
At least you get a
experience.
hoverboard.
Yeah.
This was so out of place. They have Biff's bar, which looks like a shack right now.
Yep.
And then they have just
And this guy just
they got
throwing
a Karate
dice.
Kid throwing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is awful.
Yeah.
Sound
So,
is awful.
and here's the thing: like, they actually made a decent video game. Are you guys familiar with the 1993 variation?
Oh, dude, this game. Out about this. This game's
Yeah.
awesome.
So for the Super Nintendo, you got Super Back to the Future, but here's
Yeah.
the thing: it was only in Japan.
What am I trying to say? Sorry, the Famicom.
Yeah.
All
Why
the best things are
on
made
earth?
in Japan.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's true, but like, of all the places to release this game, we deserved a good Back to the Future game after the bastardization that was those LJN games.
I was saying,
listen to the music.
I was saying that because that's what he says. Is it the third movie where he says Doc Brown's like, "Oh, it's made in Japan," and
Yep.
Marty's like, "Doc, all the best things are made in Japan."
Yep. Yeah. So, yep. Super Back to the Future. Fun game. Definitely check it out. Oops. Skip too far. There's a sweet boss battle I'm trying to get to.
Dude, the sound is incredible on this.
Yeah, the music's great. Come on. I want to get to the... Oh, there it is.
That's
look at
incredible. I
yeah,
know.
look at Griff.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, that's fun.
that is amazing. You're even at the Cafe 80s is the, your background.
Doug, did you ever see Griff in a store yet? I mean, I've ordered him online, but did you ever see him in a store?
I've never seen him in store. I ordered
I
him
haven't
online
either.
as well. Just one of those things. But yeah, boom, and he's dead. So,
yeah, but look,
definitely
they got the whole arcade in the background that's there. like-
everything like this.
Yeah.
This is the game we should have got.
Yep.
So they sell bootlegs of the Super Nintendo game at video game conventions. I'm sure they do, and they're worth every penny. I mean, look at the gang. The whole gang is there and everything. His minions.
Yeah, that's
It's
incredible.
the guy with the glasses.
Have it on my SNES emulator. It's actually decent. It is. It's like I said, it's great. I just wish we would have got it.
I wish
we
I
did
had
get.
one of those. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we did actually get one good Back to the Future game, the Telltale game. It's fan freaking tastic. The voice acting is great. Storyline's great. Graphics, everything.
I played some of it.
It's worth it.
That's what earlier. I think I love the Telltale games. I love these story-driven style games. I love The Walking
Mhm.
Dead and all that. But now I got this one, and I remember playing like a little bit of it the day I got it, and was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna gonna play this one, but I don't think
5 years later.
Yeah, exactly. It's still one I want to play. There's so many games on a list that I have that I just want
The
to play.
adult problem. The adult conundrum.
I realize I'm more of a collector than I am an actual.
We're in that good old
than I
life
actually
preserver.
play games.
Yep. It's life preserver. But yes, definitely check out the Telltale games Back to the Future. It's
Hey, look how good that was.
Yeah, it's great. It's the best, hands down, Back to the Future video game, which isn't saying a lot, but either way, it's still worth your time and energy to check it out. You got that Huey Lewis. Got the Huey Lewis soundtrack, for crying out loud.
I'm actually now that I'm thinking about it, because I saw the PS3 thing. I'm pretty sure they remastered it for PS4, or at least just re-released it. I'm pretty sure that's when I bought it. Was when they came
I think
out
I
with that.
repackaged because on PS3 it was like mini episodes that was broken up, and I think the PlayStation 4 was like, hey, here it is all in one complete collection type of thing.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. Mike says got super into this game. Telltale's game is phenomenal. The PS4 version is the best one, as they got Tom Wilson to come back and do his voice. Didn't know that tidbit.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, the voice actors, they're not the original cast members, with the exception to Tom Wilson there, but they do a good job. They sound very, very on brand, so to speak, with Michael J. and Christopher Lloyd. So it is what it is.
I agree.
Definitely check it out.
Very good.
RPG, Back to the Future, and Goonies. Please God, that'd be fun.
That could be kind of fun.
Yeah.
I'm all for
PlayStation 3 is when that originally came out, but it was also on Steam and other available. I think it was Xbox 360 at the time.
It might have even been on the phone. Telltale did that a lot, where they had their games even would run on like
iOS.
Have a phone app for it. Yeah.
Yep. Tom is the Ernie Hudson of Back to the Future. He is the heart of the cast. Yes, he is. He's got an amazing comedy career that he does as well.
Yep.
And he also has a bit where he sings the quote unquote Back to the Future song, where he basically answers every question he's been asked thousands of times by fans over the years. Like, what's it like to work with Michael J. Fox? Is Christopher Lloyd really nice? All these things. So he does this in a hilarious song. It's definitely worth checking out on the YouTubes. He also played Jenny's dad in Forrest Gump. Yeah, he did. He was the abusive father in Forrest Gump. But anyways,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's a small bit part, but yeah, it is what it is. But definitely pour one out. A Pepsi Perfect this week. Highly recommend everybody go out, watch Back to the Future, the trilogy, or even the cartoon series. Like I said, I enjoy the cartoon series, the animation style. Like, who doesn't love Biff and his yellow teeth?
I know. There it is.
Yes. Like I said, I love the overzealous animation style they used in the cartoon series. And again, the voice acting's phenomenal in that. So give it a shot. A lot of the box set, like Blu-ray collections, everything will actually include the animated series as like a bonus that's like on there. So you may already own the animated series if you have one of those collector's 4K box sets, and you may not even be aware of it. So definitely check it out, because not every one of them were released. There was like the very first 35th anniversary one didn't come with it, but later editions did. So just look at your DVDs or your Blu-rays or whatever, and check it out and see. Oh, damn, you might actually have the entire
surprise for you.
Entire thing there.
I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check.
Give it a look, because otherwise you're gonna be like me, and you have to buy the DVD, and then you have the Blu-rays, and then you got them both, and then you're like, damn it, I could have.
They got me.
Yeah. They got me with the double dip, but it is what it is. So.
No, we just have to appreciate the fact that at least I think probably I'll agree here that I think this is some of the best movies ever made.
Mm-hmm.
But
for sure,
it's also one of the best trilogies ever made.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard to accomplish. Just such, like, I disagree with kind of the ratings on 2 there, what we just said, but I just think all 3 of those movies together, that's pretty hard to accomplish. How awesome they are. So
TMC NY says Back to the Future 3 was the best. And then Tilting T, that this is what I was referring to with the Tom Wilson Stop Asking Me the Questions song, where he's answering all those. So here's a general question from Mr. Syntastics. Nerdy Collecting says, it seems like the 80s has the most iconic movies, characters, music, etc. Do you think we only think about this because we grew up in it, or is it more iconic? The answer to that is both. So
I agree.
Every generation will always look back at their nostalgic past with rose-colored glasses and say we did it best or whatever. Except for the Great Depression kids, I don't think a lot of people were looking back and saying the Roaring 20s when we were eating dirt off the floor because of the Depression, and then we went to a world war, and then we won a world war, and then we went back to a world war. I don't think that time frame was ever really looking back and saying, we did it best. But the 80s, 70s, and 90s, as far as those 3 decades, are so individually recognized as far as bookends. This is what the 70s look like for culture, movies, tire, fashion, all that type of stuff. Same thing with the 80s and 90s. They all have their own kind of unique, and then it starts just kind of blending after that. If you ask me, the early 2000s, 2010, 2020, all that just blends together. And I think a lot of it has to do with it, like I said, nothing really stands out. There's nothing that makes it unique.
Nowadays, it's it'd be hard to say that anything nowadays will be that iconic in the future that some of this was, because most movies are just trying to copy off of movies from the 80s and 90s, or they're just flat out remakes of them. It's not even just let's just take the same idea. It's just let's just remake the movie now because we know it did well back then. I don't feel like we're getting things that are as original anymore.
No,
so,
I mean, like I said, Hollywood's on the sequels, rehash, reimagines. Hey, if it worked then, it'll work again with a new coat of paint, right? Paul says, don't film schools use Back to the Future as a model on how to make a film that tells a story? Yes, they do. That and Shawshank Redemption are typically one of the 2 most exemplified movies in film school, as far as, hey, this is how you put something together. It doesn't have plot holes, and tells us a cohesive story and gives you driven character arcs from beginning, middle to end.
And I will say this too. We had a conversation here real quick about recently, and I don't even remember the movie. How there's so many movies I can reference from the 80s, not as well, but especially the 80s, where it's just that was a time where things were just fun. The movies were fun, and it's now it feels like everything's so focused on a message or focused on in so much of the world's divided, and it's just to me a movie is a break. It's a break. It's a break. I want to have fun. I want to be out of the reality, and it's too much. I feel like movies are nowadays are putting us in the reality. It's no, I don't really want to think about that right now.
I wanted to watch something, even if it's based on Earth. I still want it to be almost a fake version of Earth. You know what I mean?
But anyways, it's just I just feel like that was a simpler time of just having fun. And so I mean, at least for me, but that's how I just feel like that's why maybe so many things are so iconic and just fun to watch. It doesn't have to be this is going to win an Academy Award. It was just fun.
Yeah, because I think the goal back in the 80s and 90s was, is this movie entertaining? Will they laugh at it, or will they enjoy the story?
We're never going to get another Dumb and Dumber, right? We're never going to get anything like that again. I don't think. But
I mean, they were taking chances more. Movie studios weren't saying, okay, we got to make this movie to make $500 million.
That's true too.
The wants, needs, demands of things, whereas today's
funny is back then they actually did though, and now they try to and they don't succeed.
Exactly. It's one of those things you try hard. It's a literal, a saying. A try hard. A definition is somebody that does something on purpose with the intent to do something without the actual passion or talent to pull it off. Movie studios are very guilty of doing this. Like I said, they just say, okay, we take this tried and true formula, we polish over it real quick, and then we just throw it out to mass market because they'll eat it up, right? They ate it up 30 years ago. They'll do it again. No, you can't do that. Sorry. So this is starting in the late 60s, when it started with the music. 70s filmmakers in the 80s and 90s was America at its peak culture-wise and prosperity. And that was another thing. Finances play, 80s America was doing all right. 90s, same thing. We had the birth of the internet, which created all sorts of new opportunities. And then now we
yes.
Yeah. Yay. Live on it.
Yeah.
So Steve says, make a new Back to the Future where you go back in time and change all the toxic social media and fix it. Yeah, just make people talk to them, each other, and like take social media out of the equation, like, because it was supposed to bring us all together, and all it did was make us more divisive.
That's so true, dude. But sure, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it had the complete opposite of its original intent.
That's so true, though. No, but he has a good point about iconic characters. Like if you really think of the broad scheme of things, even like horror characters. I mean, everything that we see even now, it's like we don't even get away from it. It's like you go to a Halloween store, it's still like our stuff we grew up with in there.
No,
it's
for
like they
real.
can't. It is great. Like it's like Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, or else then they have like Michael Myers. It's just we did it, guys. We did it.
That's why we say we grew up better. That's the whole premise of the show.
It's hard to think of any
pat ourselves on the back.
movies.
Yeah. Why has a Goonies sequel not happened?
I mean, I wouldn't want it to
It's
now.
been attempted numerous times.
It's
been attempted numerous times, and it's always fell through. And supposedly it's still going to happen in some fashion, whether it be a television series or movie. But every 2 or 3 years, they come back and say, "Hey, we're working on scripts. We're doing this," and nothing ever comes to fruition. Either way,
doing an episode on that at some point. So
it'll happen. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in, going back to the past, the present, and the future. That is Back to the Future. Like I said, rehashing, my favorite is the first one, but I love all three of them, and I suggest everybody watch all three of them. I don't have any issue with either one of these sequels. I enjoy number 2. Like I said, all the gizmos, the gadgets, the new futuristic toys that Marty gets to experience and play with. Loved so much about it, but just the wholesomeness of the Back to the Future trilogy as a whole. Love it to death. Lightning in a bottle, says Aeon Flux, and I couldn't agree more. But gentlemen, any closing thoughts you want to say about Back to the Future, or anything you want to talk about for your channel to plug away?
No, that's it. Just closing with that is one of the movies / trilogies ever. Still in my top 10 movies, but yeah. So we guys, we got some good movies, and that's one of them for sure. But yeah, that's it. I watch it every year, all the time. So we did it.
Well, that says it up. So guys, thank you for joining us. Next week we'll have another nostalgic episode for you. And until then, take care, everybody. Have a good night.
See you guys.